You can edit a number of basic preferences in Colorway by going up to the Edit tab and clicking on Preferences. The first one is Highlight Swatches. Press the checkbox and press OK. In your Palette tab, when you hover over a swatch, you'll notice that a contrast color will appear in the image. By default, Highlight Swatches is unchecked. The second one is showing the variant selector. We have a separate tutorial for the variant selector. The third preference is hiding a bounding box when the item is locked. That will hide the blue box that appears around each DCI asset, and by default, that setting is checked. The fourth preference is how you want to refer to textures inside of Colorway, if you want them to be called textures or if you want them to be called images. And that'll appear in all of your menus, whether you right-click on something or whether you go over to your Texture tab and choose to add a texture. And you can see here it now says Add an image. It's just a personal preference of how you want to refer to images. By default, we refer to textures as textures. The autosave setting is automatically enabled at 600 seconds. And you can change that or turn it off. And the default color space is Adobe RGB, but you can also choose linear or sRGB. When you bring a DCI item into Colorway, it comes in as white, but you can change the color of that item and select any item from the unassigned material color. In the color picker preferences, you can choose to show or hide the color picker. And you can see that the color picker has now disappeared from my submenus. You can also show or hide master palettes. And again, you can see that the master palettes have disappeared from my preferences. You can show swatch index, and that just gives you the order in which the swatches appear. By default, it's unchecked. In Preferences, you can also point to your master palette location. You can see here that I've saved mine on my desktop in a folder called Colorway Projects. You can choose a new location. You can even choose a shared location on a server so that everyone's reading from the same master palettes. And then below your master palettes, you have visibility on which master palettes you actually want to show in the application. By default, all of the Pantone libraries are checked, but you may only want to choose some of them to display in your master palette list. So you can just uncheck the ones you don't need. In the graphics preferences, you can change your super sampling level, and you can also change how your textures are cached. Changes aren't applied until you press the Apply button or OK. There are also some preferences in the menus at the top of the screen. There's separate tutorials for sheet masking. There are also showing the status bar. And you can also show sheet numbers. By default, sheets don't have their number allocated. So if you want to show which order they're in, go up to Sheet and press Show Sheet Numbers.